Capcom has once again just blown everyone away with a new trailer for the RE4 Remake at the recent PlayStation State of Play. There were a lot of new things revealed in this trailer, with a lot of it being in the castle and a few reveals for the island. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the trailer scene by scene and going over everything you might have missed. So with that being said, let's get right into it. We start off the trailer in what looks to be a brand new location in the remake, where we can see Leon slowly approaching a ritual for Ashley. This area does seem to share similarities to this island area in the original, where Sadler gained control of Ashley, but due to the stone architecture, I'm going to assume that this area will be somewhere in the castle. Then we get a look at another ritual, where we can see some murdered cultists next to some type of plaga. After that, we move on to some new gameplay, where we can see Leon in some sort of dark sewers area, which this clip in specific looks like the spike trap you go through right before fighting the Vertigo enemy. We then have what looks to be the third stage plaga latch onto a cultist, gain control of the body, and then aggressively dart towards Leon. If you look at the HUD in the bottom right corner, you can see some sort of vest icon, which is most likely some type of body armor that you can purchase from the merchant to take less damage. This was in the original, but if I do remember right, it can only be purchased on normal mode during the island section of the game. So it's great to see this as an option earlier into the game. Next, we have a small scene of the section from the beginning of the trailer, where we can see two of the brand new enemy types we saw from the second trailer. I'm gonna make a prediction that these two enemies are special guards and will become boss fights later in the game. Maybe Sadler will infect these guards and cause one of them to mutate into the U3 boss and the other to mutate into a brand new creature. Next, we get a clip of an infected Ashley armed with a knife and is seemingly being hostile to Leon. This is another example of Capcom showing us that there will be much more emphasis on the progression of the plaga infection throughout the course of the game. And later into the trailer, we actually see scenes of Leon being consumed by the plaga, with one of them showing both Leon and Ashley in very bad shape and likely on the verge of becoming fully infected. Now after this, we can see a clip of Leon fighting enemies in the huge tower area right before the Salazar boss fight, and interestingly enough, these enemy models were not from the original, so rather this is a new enemy type or it's just a new model for the cultist enemies. Next, we get some more castle gameplay, where we get our first look at the Type 2 plaga, which was the plaga in the original that would rip Leon's head off. In the remake, however, it looks like you are now able to defend yourself against this attack. We then get our first look at the beginning area of the castle, where you have to fire the cannon to break down the wall. We can see a blue medallion here, which it was confirmed in an interview that this medallion challenge will be spread throughout the entire game. In this scene, we can also see some sort of yellow material, showing that we can climb down to the lower portion of this tower. Next, we get quite a few clips of the Mines chapter, which shows us that Luis will be aiding the player in this chapter, meaning he will be alive a lot longer in the remake. We can see them in the double El Gigante fight and in the small cavern area right before the double El Gigante fight. And what's interesting is the Bella sisters will now be present during this section, which could mean that they cut the section in the village featuring the sisters. We will just have to wait and see about that. But going back to the El Gigante fight, we get our first look at the riot gun in action, which is the first shotgun unlocked at the castle section of the game. Next, we get our first look at Krauser, and I think they might have accidentally let something slip in this trailer. I'm about to point out what I would consider a pretty big spoiler, so if you want to avoid that, then skip to this timestamp here. Now, in this scene right before Krauser lands on the ground, we can see Luis on the ground with a knife stuck in his back, which really makes it look like Krauser murdered Luis here. Obviously, we can't 100% confirm this, but that's kind of what this is looking like. But anyways, from there we get some more castle gameplay, and we actually get our first look at the new bolt thrower weapon in action. For those of you who don't know, this is a newly added weapon to the remake that can fire suppressed arrows as well as mines at the enemy. In this weapon wheel on the screen, we can once again see the riot gun, and we also get confirmation that the broken butterfly is returning, which is definitely great to see. During this clip of gameplay, we also get confirmation that the suplex attack is returning. From there, we get our first look at a playable Ashley section, and in this clip, the light from her lantern reveals a Plaga Knight enemy. Then we get our first look at the iconic water room area, where we see that you were able to crouch to avoid projectiles. And then we get our first look at the island area, which shows off some gameplay of the chapter where Helicopter Mike aids you in battle. Based on the clip, it looks like they will be retaining the heavy action from the original, but I'm gonna predict that the lab sections in the remake will be a lot more horror oriented. Something to point out is the fact that Leon is firing what looks to be a newly added SMG, which is nice to see them adding some more variety to the weapons. Then we move on to the minecart section, where we can see some major changes to the original, being that Luis is now with you and the enemies will have separate cards from the player where they can fire crossbows to deal damage. From here we have this little clip, which I'm going to assume is the huge Novistador nest in the castle. Then we get our first look at the Garrador enemy in this very chilling atmosphere with blood all over the walls and a lot more darker compared to the original. We can also see a breakable vase, which looks like a reused asset from Resident Evil 8. Next we get some gameplay of the first Krauser encounter, which now will act as a boss fight where you can fend off Krauser with your knife. But as you can see, there will still be some minor button prompts in the moment, like opportunities to evade and defend attacks. From there we get a small clip of the Novistador enemy, confirming that they will be making a return. And lastly we get a scene of the lab on the island where Leon and Ashley cleanse themselves of the virus. This was kinda odd of them to place this at the end, so I'm thinking that this scene was more of a nod to the Regenerator enemy's return. Unfortunately they weren't revealed in this trailer, but I'm going to assume that's what this scene was trying to go for. Now after the trailer it was confirmed that the iconic Mercenaries game mode is returning, and a special demo will be announced very soon, so be on the lookout for that because it's probably going to be here in a week or so. But anyways, that was the full RE4 Remake trailer breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.